Your power lies on the other side of a daily meditation practice. 99% of people are not doing this. And when you cultivate that inner space through meditation, it not only helps you cognitively, but it helps you spiritually. You start to cultivate a space where you're directly connected to the divine, God, the universe, Allah, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so in this video, I'm going to get into the details of why you should meditate. And then I'll go a step further and show you exactly how. My goal with this video is not to send you down a rabbit hole of other meditation videos to learn, but for you to have everything that you need in this one video to get you started. Back in 2018, I was experimenting with breathwork, Wim Hof breathwork. Little did I know that it would bring me to a very deep state of transcendence and inner knowing and even healing. Initially, I started doing this breathwork because I wanted to get better at cold plunging and cold showers. But then I found myself in a very deep, almost psychedelic state that felt very out of body. And from there, I entered into an extremely deep meditative state. And when I came out of it, I realized that there was more to this life than just the physical. I was raised in a really religious home, and I had stepped away from any kind of religion. So at this point in my life, I was pretty much an atheist. But that being said, I'm going to get into all the benefits and all the reasons why you should meditate and how to do it. So the first and most obvious reason why people recommend meditating is presence. Most of us don't know how to be truly present. Especially, imagine there's a beautiful woman in front of you. Your palms are sweating, you're just thinking about how beautiful she is, how nervous you are. That never fully goes away. But if you want to be able to be very grounded in the midst of all the chaos going on in your mind, meditation teaches you how to be one-pointed. It doesn't get rid of all the thoughts, it doesn't get rid of all the neurosis, but it teaches you how to be aware and focused in the midst of all the mental chaos. So for a little illustration here. So this here is your brain. And at any given moment, there are constantly thoughts and chaos coming your way. What am I going to eat for dinner? I can't believe that thing I said. I feel like such a loser. Man, I wish I got more sleep last night. And in the midst of that, when you meditate and you learn how to cultivate that awareness and presence, in spite of all this chaos, you're able to be hyper-focused. And obviously, meditation's a very trendy thing. People who are in business, people who are trying to reach a certain goal, they're all about meditation, right? And this is more of the surface level, but it is a useful tool for executing out in the physical world, meeting goals, accomplishing things. But in my personal opinion, this is the most shallow layer of why you should meditate. But it is a good place to start. It's a very egoic place to start because the ego is just like, I want to accomplish, I want to do all these things. Usually it's just wanting to have a feeling of worthiness, a feeling that you're deserving of love. And so we go out into the world, we accomplish all these goals. Eventually, your soul will transcend that, whether in this lifetime or another lifetime. And it's not inherently bad, but it is a phase of egoic achievement. So for some of you, that is reason enough for you to meditate, but I'm going to give you two more reasons. And the second reason, in my opinion, is even more important. Cultivating a state of inner peace. Because all the achievements, all the things that you can acquire in this life, all the goals, none of that shit matters if you don't have inner peace. And meditation can become addictive in a good way whenever you touch some of those higher realms, whenever you come face to face with the divine in a sense. Even glimpsing a moment of inner peace, a moment of bliss, a moment of somehow knowing that everything is okay, even if your life is physically in chaos. Tapping into that realm of inner peace was the most life-changing thing that I ever encountered. This goes beyond religion. It really doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu. Every religion is pointing to the same thing. So we don't have to get into a debate or an argument, but all religions have aspects that are signposts to the divine, but eventually it just turns almost into like a political debate, and then you're just right back in ego and you're missing the point. So if your life is in chaos right now, you might need to just brush the shoulder of peace, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, even if it's just for a moment. That will help you. But first we need to calm the mind, because it's the chaos in the mind. It's the constant chatter. It's the constant inner dialogue, the constant story, the narrative that keeps us from that inner peace, which is actually the true essence of who you are. Which brings me to the next reason to meditate, and that is just simply transcendence. What is transcendence? Well, it's that idea of being in the world, but not being of the world. You start to have a deep knowing that you are more than this human. You are more than this physical body. You're more than your emotions. You're more than your thoughts. And it's almost like dying before you die. Maybe you've heard the term ego death before. I would encourage you to go down the rabbit trail of near-death experiences. This is the next best thing. Whenever you have moments of transcendence, it's not as palpable and as direct as, say, someone who literally died for 15 minutes and came face to face with the divine and then chose to come back and realize that everything is okay and that the point of this existence is actually just love. But it's a step in the right direction. And once you kind of end up in these transcendent states, there's really no going back. And at that point, it's a lot easier to enjoy life. It's actually easier to enjoy goals and to imbue those goals with a sense of purpose. Like, yeah, money's fine, but I just want to serve other people. I want to move from a place of love and knowing and understanding and groundedness. And when you're in this state, you become very powerful. Just your mere presence. Whenever you're in the midst of someone having a conversation and you are still and you're looking in their eyes, and you know that behind their eyes isn't just this ego, but the divine itself. The energy and vibe that you give off to people is just very beautiful. It's very powerful. You start to live less in that energy of separation. You start to understand that degree of oneness. Now, something like plant medicine, I wouldn't really call it a shortcut, but it can give some people like a glimpse of this transcendent world, so that way they start to take meditation seriously. Because if you have a particular ayahuasca or mushroom journey and it absolutely blows your mind and sends you to a realm or shows you things that are beyond what you can even put into language, and you come face to face with the divine in some way, from that point on, you don't need to keep doing plant medicine. Like, it's not something that you just do all the time. At that point, you now have a knowing. You have an experiential moment, and you're not just living off of concepts anymore. Because that's the thing. It's like religion, it's just people going off of concepts that someone else told you about. Read this book, this holy thing happened. It's like, really? It's like, trust me, bro. And that's what most of religion is. And there's also like deep emotion involved. Like, I really believe this. But if people are honest with themselves, they've never had an experiential moment with something higher. If you want to have an experiential moment with something higher, if your belief in the spiritual or God is so important to you, then dude, you need to meditate so you can have a knowing. And this takes time. And like I said, in this modern age, in the era of the TikTok brain, some people do need to take plant medicine because they need to have their paradigms blasted wide open. And then they start to take things like meditation more seriously. So now we're going to briefly touch on how to meditate. And this isn't going to be as in-depth as you might think, because meditation is fairly simple. Which brings me to the first point on how to meditate. Start small, keep it simple. There are many different modalities and practices out there, and the issue is people get shiny object syndrome even within meditation. They just jump from practice to practice. Oh, I'll do candle gazing. Oh, now I'll do like follow the breath. Oh, I'm gonna do find one practice and stick to it. Start with 5 minutes a day, and I'm gonna recommend just simple following the breath, okay? You're gonna sit in an upright position. You're gonna be very still, and you're just gonna breathe deeply. And you're going to keep your focus on the breath. no matter what happens. And then the chaos of the brain is gonna happen. What am I gonna have for dinner? That girl was really cute. I miss my parents. I'm tired. I'm hungry. While the mind and thoughts are going crazy, you're gonna continually bring your attention back to the breath. Back to the breath. And when you start this, it's gonna be very frustrating. Because if you sit down to meditate for 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 30 seconds of that might be just this and being identified with it. Right? So you're focusing on the breath and it's like, oh, what am I have for dinner? Oh, I'm gonna make a sandwich and I'm gonna have these kinds of particular chips. And then all of a sudden your 5-minute timer goes off and you're like, fuck, I didn't bring my focus back to my breath at all. And that's okay. That's day one. Next day, show up, set your timer for 5 minutes, and eventually you're gonna wanna go beyond 5 minutes because you're gonna wanna make progress on this. You're gonna be so frustrated with the fact that you can't keep your focus on your breath that you're gonna wanna do it longer. And then guess what? As time goes on and you're able to continually bring that focus back, it becomes like a superpower. And the goal of meditation is not to become a good meditator. The goal of meditation is to come to a place where you have embodied focus awareness. So even in your day-to-day, you might be driving in your car, all of a sudden someone cuts off and you want to just like scream and like lash out in anger. But that same awareness that you're starting to cultivate in your meditation practice starts to show up in your everyday life. And then you become a very grounded person. So step one of meditation is just following the breath, which is technically a thought, right? I'm gonna follow my breath. It's a thought, but it's an anchor thought, okay? It's a chosen thought that you have. And you're learning how to cultivate your focus and just watch as the mind goes crazy. The ego will also do things where you'll all of a sudden your shoulder hurts out of nowhere, or like your nose is just really itchy and you're like, I have to do something. That's part of it as well. Eventually you become like a grounded mountain during your meditation practice where you're in complete stillness for the allotted time. But start 5 minutes a day, which is a very small amount, but it's very similar to the concept of someone who can't seem to get to the gym. And so their goal every day is like, hey, just put on your tennis shoes, just put on your gym clothes. And then once they make it that far, chances are they're gonna just end up going to the gym. If you're doing 5 minutes a day, eventually you're just gonna go for 10 minutes. That way you can actually have like somewhat of a meditation. But sometimes we need to even trick the mind. 5 minutes a day. Commit to 5 minutes a day for 30 days. And if you want to go longer than that, then do that. And even if you have a millisecond of stillness or peace, you'll notice that. You'll be like, wow, I did have a moment of peace. I realize now how chaotic this mind is, and you'll start to see some purpose in meditation. So number 2 is really kind of what I just rambled about, and that is become the watcher. Become the observer of these thoughts that are coming in. Really try and separate yourself from the thoughts, because usually thoughts are on autopilot, and the moment that they happen, we identify with them. If ever there's some sadness, you're like, I am sad. If ever there's some anger, you're like, I am angry. I am hungry, whatever it might be. And when you're sitting in this meditation, if you can remove yourself and just be aware of all these mechanisms of the mind that are constantly going, they never stop. And a lot of it happens unconsciously. And that goes into the whole idea of until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. This is just who I am. These are the cards I've been dealt. And even a lot of the stories and narratives that we have about our past are just on autopilot. And we think it's who we are. But cultivating that separation between your awareness and your thoughts and emotions. Thoughts and emotions aren't you. They're just a mechanism of the ego. The ego is a tool for you to have this human experience, but at the end of the day, it actually is not the essence of who you are. The essence of who you are is peace, and it is love, and it is deeper and more profound than you could possibly imagine. And if all of this sounds like BS to you, then I challenge you to try this, but some of you aren't interested in this, and that's okay, because everyone's soul is at a different phase in their journey, and everyone needs to go through a certain level of burning through egoic desire to even find this stuff interesting. So if you don't find this stuff interesting, then it really is okay. Like you can click off this video. There might be a part of your ego that wants to even view this as an achievement. Like I need to become an accomplished meditator in order to have a good life, which a lot of us start there, and that's okay. But be honest with yourself. If you feel a calling to the divine, if you feel a calling to potentially transcend some of these egoic constructs that we have, then meditation is a great place to start. And the third and final, I guess it's almost like a tool that I would recommend whenever trying to cultivate learning how to meditate. And this was huge for me, as I mentioned in the story that I started with. And that's just breath work. Again, like I said, it started with me doing that Wim Hof breath work. I'll actually link that exact Wim Hof breath work at the bottom of the description. So if you are interested in that, check that out. So it's the kind of breath work where it's showing you how to completely fill up your lungs, right? Like both compartments. You got like the bottom part of your lungs and then the upper part. And you kind of breathe up into like your head, like breathe up into your forehead. And it has you do breath retentions, like you hold it. And you're doing this laying on the ground. You don't want to do it while driving or anything like that. And what's happening is you're really oxidating your body, and you're holding it as long as you can, then you release it, and then you hold it on the release as well. And then you do like 10 hyperventilating type breaths. And again, like I said, when I started this breath work, it was through the motivation of self-improvement. I was like, man, I really want to get better at cold plunging and cold showers. I want to become more like mentally tough. And then I had like a mystical experience. I had this deep transcendent moment where it felt almost like a miniature near-death experience. There was like a bright light. I felt this infinite love and peace, and I started crying, and there was all this stuff that happened. And then I just ended up laying there for like 20 or 30 minutes in a very deep meditative state. So a lot of my meditations now, I start with a form of breath work. I don't go full-blown intense like Wim Hof, like the video that's gonna be in the description, but I do it sitting upright, and I just do a few really deep Wim Hof type breaths just to get the energy flowing up and down the spine. And then once I kind of feel just even a hint of inner peace, even a hint of gratitude and love and all that stuff, then I go into my meditation. I get very still. And at that point, my breath becomes very shallow. It's almost like you get to a point whenever you're in that still state where it's like you're sleeping and dreaming while you're awake. It's a very interesting state. And again, I'm gonna reiterate that the goal of meditation, it's not to become a good meditator. It really isn't. It's to cultivate a certain level of awareness that you can take with you into your daily life. And it's gonna start out for a lot of you as a self-improvement practice, which is great. You will become more focused, you will become more grounded, but if you keep going on this path, it very well could lead to something more profound than you could possibly imagine. But one thing that's kind of a trap is whenever someone hears that, they start to view some of these more like transcendental states as another achievement. Like, oh, I'm gonna become so powerful once I connect with the divine on a deep level. But if you do connect to that, it's not what you think. It actually takes you out of the energy of separation, of like, look how powerful I am, in the energy of oneness. You start to love strangers. It's really weird, but it's really beautiful. So this is a lot. I tried to cover as many topics and angles of meditation as I could in this short video. In summary, keep it simple. Just find one meditation practice. Something as simple as following the breath, continually bringing your awareness back to the breath. Become the watcher and the observer of all the thoughts. Whenever your thoughts wander off the breath, don't judge yourself. Don't be like, oh, I'm blowing it. This is part of it. The same way that when someone goes to the gym and they're lifting everything and it's like wrong form, they have to go through that phase in order to become an intermediate and then to eventually become more elite at whatever kind of exercise they're doing. And then stick to one practice, just like fitness. Again, wonderful metaphor. If you're jumping from CrossFit to calisthenics to powerlifting like every other week, you're not going to see that much progress. Don't have shiny object syndrome, just the same basic fundamental meditation, and then do progressive overload. Just add a little bit more every week, 5 minutes. If that's hard for you, stick to that. Then when that starts to become easy and you're like, oh, this is kind of easy, I could go deeper, go to 10 minutes, then 15. And then finally, after this video, I really want you to click on this Wim Hof breath work and just go all in on it. Breath work has a way of really just getting you outside of your mind, and the type of breathing, it's so intense that it just causes your brain to shut off for a little bit. And then once you do that breath work, then just lay there for 5 minutes and just follow the breath. And any kind of stillness or peace that you feel, just lean into that. I literally wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for meditation and breath work and connecting with the divine through this way. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I know there are a ton of gaps in this video, but like I said, this is just to get you started. I honestly think even just with this video, you'll be set for the next year. You don't need to go down the rabbit hole. Put in the comments if you have any other questions. One final thing, I do offer individual one-on-one coaching and mentoring. If you think that's something you would benefit from, there's a link in the description where you can book a discovery call and we can chat and see if it'd be a good fit for us to work together. A lot of the clients that I have, we're not just talking about meditation, spiritual things. A lot of these guys, I'm helping them with their fitness, with their dating, really whatever you need support on. And it's been amazing over the last year or so. I've only got room for 2 more clients, so if that interests you, click the link in the description. There's also the Conscious Men community, and it's just a monthly cost. We do 2 group calls a week. There's a couple of courses in there. There's a body transformation course and a video on how I make my videos. It's just another way to connect with me directly. I appreciate you. If you made it this far in the video, please share this with someone that you think would benefit from it. You are loved, you matter, and you have barely scratched the surface of what you're capable of. I'll talk to you soon.
The patterns we never see, holding us under the water. Nothing here to give us clarity.